A few days ago, I decided to escape my life. I needed some quiet after my breakup. At 34, I thought I had seen a lot, but I had never been caving. I set up my camp near a cave in the Appalachian Mountains. The forest was dense and beautiful. The air felt crisp, and the only sounds were the rustling leaves and birds. I planned to take photographs and maybe write a bit. I had time to think, but I hadn't stopped thinking about it. Around midnight I heard something. It was faint, but almost like echoes bouncing off cave walls. I wasn't sure if it was just my mind playing tricks, or if something was out there. The feeling of being watched crept in. My heart raced as I listened. It felt wrong, and I tried to shake it off. The next few days, I went back to the cave. I wanted to document my findings, hoping to capture something breathtaking. Each time I entered, strange markings caught my eye. They looked like symbols I couldn't understand. I thought they were just graffiti, but they made me uneasy. Other hikers warned me about the cave. They looked scared as they talked about lost souls wandering inside, whispering names to anyone who dared enter. I hadn't seen anyone yet, but their stories stirred a strange mix of curiosity and dread in me. As the sun began to set one evening, I felt scared and stayed by the campfire. The flames crackled, but I couldn't shake that feeling. What if there were lost souls? What if they were waiting for someone, maybe even me? I felt a chill that night under the stars. The next evening, I decided I had to face my fears. I returned to the cave. It seemed quiet. I felt a strong pull to go deeper. My flashlight flickered as I walked in, and the darkness pressed around me. I could hardly breathe. Shadows danced on the walls, and my heart pounded in my chest. Then I saw a figure by a narrow passageway. He just stood there, staring. I asked if he was okay, but he stayed silent, just watching. I blinked, and when I opened my eyes, he was gone. Panic hit me. Where had he gone? I turned to leave but stopped when I heard a voice whispering my name. My flashlight flickered again. I couldn't believe it. I thought it couldn't be real. I felt the darkness close in around me, thick and alive. The whispers grew louder, and I knew I was no longer alone. I didn't want to stay. I turned to run, but the cave seemed to stretch endlessly. I stumbled deeper, and the shadows moved with me, mocking me in silence. Suddenly, the whispers stopped. I turned around and the cave was empty. I felt cold and alone. Then I heard a rustle to my left, and I spun back to the darkness, my heart racing. There was something waiting. I had to get out. I stumbled back, my heart hammering in my chest. Panic twisted my stomach as I fought to keep my breath steady. The thick darkness felt alive, almost sentient. I couldn't shake the feeling that those whispers had come from everywhere and nowhere at once. I heard the rustle again, louder this time. My flashlight flickered, illuminating only a few feet ahead. I moved haltingly, my feet dragging through the damp earth, desperately searching for a way out. I cursed the symbols I had seen, wishing I had never come here. They felt like they were a part of something bigger, something dangerous, and I was dumb enough to venture too close. As I turned a corner, I saw the markings again. My flashlight caught one shining symbol, almost as if it pulsed in the dark. It looked like an eye. I took a step back. Was it always there? I felt nauseous. I wanted to think it was just another trick of the light, but something deep inside me said otherwise. Then I heard it again, my name, faint, but clear. Sara. I froze. My own name curled around my mind like a serpent. I felt its call, like a hand reaching for me. "Who's there?" I shouted, my voice echoing in the cavern. The immediate silence felt mocking. The cave seemed to throb as if it had consumed every sound. I willed myself to stay calm, but dread settled in my bones. Then I saw the figure again. This time he was farther down the passage, his back turned to me. I felt a pull towards him, mixed with a fight-or-flight instinct that pulsed through my veins. "Hey!" I called out, taking an uncertain step forward. He didn't move. "Are you lost?" My voice broke, the words trembling with both fear and curiosity. As if sensing me, he turned slightly. I caught a glimpse of his face, hollow eyes and a mouth that opened like a cavern itself. My breath hitched. It was the terror, the loss, the nothingness wrapped into one. I stumbled back, my hands pressing against the cool cave wall, desperate to keep the distance between us. Suddenly, he seemed to dissipate into the darkness, but the air felt charged, as if something more was waiting. I had to escape, to get out of this twisted nightmare that had drawn me in. I turned, nearly tripping over the uneven ground as I sprinted back. I didn't care which way I was going, just that I needed to break free. The oppressive weight of the cave pressed against my back as if it was trying to pull me in. Then I saw light. I stumbled forward, my hope flaring as I moved toward the faint glow. But just as quickly as it appeared, the light blinked out, leaving me swallowed in the darkness again. I felt a jolt of terror. The cave twisted like a maze, and I was completely lost. That's when I heard it, or rather felt it, something crawling, scuttling in the shadows around me. I was not alone. Before I could react, a cool breeze whispered past me, almost urging me to follow. That was it. There was no choice. Either I followed or remained here forever. But in the back of my mind, something whispered. What lay ahead could be worse than what I had seen. With renewed determination, I stepped forward into the unknown, with shadows clinging to my back. The whispers returned, and they were not just echoes now. They were laughter, sinister and inviting. I couldn't turn back. I had to know what waited at the end of this twisted path. I took a deep breath as the cool air wrapped around me. The breeze felt almost alive, coaxing me forward. But my senses screamed danger. Each step echoed off the jagged walls, a reminder of my solitude. I could still hear the laughter, soft, mocking, and all around me. The shadows seemed to elongate as I hesitated. Just then, a glimmer caught my eye. It was off to the right, beyond a thick cluster of rocks. I approached, drawn by curiosity. My flashlight beam flickered over the surface, revealing a shallow crevice. It glowed faintly, pulsing like the symbol I had seen earlier. Crouching down, I reached toward it, half expecting to find a trick of the light. What I pulled from the crevice sent a cold rush of dread through me. It was a stone, smooth, almost warm in my hand, etched with symbols that made my heart race. They looked like a mix of words and pictures, swirling into patterns that felt familiar, yet wrong. It was as if this stone held secrets that the cave didn't want to share. I dropped it in shock, the thud resounding louder than I expected. I stayed crouched, peering into the darkness, half anticipating the figure I had seen before to emerge again. Nothing happened. The oppressive silence hung above me, and in that moment, I felt utterly alone. Then, a voice broke through. Not a whisper this time, but a guttural sound, echoing from deeper in the cave. "Sara!" It rolled out like thunder. My name rang through the air, heavy and real. I pressed my hands over my ears, trying to block it out, but the pressure built up inside me. The shadows shifted at the cave's edge, and I knew I had to decide. Follow the voice or stay put and risk whatever lurked in the dark. The stone lay silent at my feet, mocking my fear. Whatever it was, it brought me closer to understanding the horrors that had taken place here. With shaky legs I stood, my heart racing to an accelerating beat. I took a tentative step toward the echo, the voice vibrating in my chest. "What do you want?" I called out, my voice trembling. The answer came not in words, but a sound, like laughter mixed with cries. I backed away, panic washing over me. The laughter surged, and the shadows expanded, swallowing the space around me. That's when I realized. This cave wasn't just a place. It was a labyrinth of memories, holding on to the souls of those who had entered. Suddenly, I noticed another light flickering in the distance, a beacon in the darkness. I felt the urge to move toward it, yet dread rooted me in place. What if it was another illusion? Or worse, what if it wasn't? That's when I turned to run, but something grabbed me, a cold grip, like a vice. It was tangible, and it pulled me back with relentless force. I gasped, my breath caught in my throat. I tried to scream, but no sound emerged. I was not just a wanderer in the cave anymore. I was part of its consuming darkness. As I struggled against the grip, I realized my only chance was to face whatever awaited me in the shadows. I shifted, preparing for a fight. But the unseen force tightened around me, inching me closer into the abyss. And just as I thought my struggle was futile, everything went dark. I blinked against the sudden darkness, my senses grappling with the stillness. It felt as if time had stopped. Then, slowly, the world around me began to materialize again, but differently this time, hazy and distorted. I staggered to my feet, the grip I had felt moments before now gone, leaving an unsettling emptiness behind. My flashlight flickered back to life, casting a beam that quivered against the cave walls. I spun around, half expecting to see the figure from before, or even a glimpse of those menacing shadows. Instead, I was met with an endless stretch of rock and silence, a void that felt almost alive, waiting. "Hello?" My voice came out tentative. Each syllable felt heavy, as if saying it might awaken something I wasn't ready to face. It was then that I noticed something strange. The symbols on the stone I had found rattled at the back of my mind, and as I glanced back toward the crevice where I had discovered it, I noticed a faint light originating from that same spot. I forced myself to move toward it, hesitating yet again. The pull to investigate was stronger than the fear clawing at my throat. As I reached the crevice, the light glimmered like 1,000 fireflies trapped within the stone. It was mesmerizing, and I found myself drawn to it. Closer, I thought. Maybe I could understand it better this time. I knelt down again, heart pounding, and extended my hand into the crevice to retrieve the stone once more. This time, however, it felt different. The power radiating from it pulsed through my fingers, sweeping away my fear with warmth. But as I examined it closely, something in the crevice caught my eye. A shadow shifted behind the stone. I jerked back, clutching the smooth surface tightly. "Who's there?" I shouted, my voice solid, searching the dark. The silence that followed was unnerving, stretching on too long before the familiar voice echoed through again, deeper and more resonant. "Sara." The chill from before returned, this time wrapping around me like a heavy fog. "What do you want?" I called out again, frustration mounting. I knew I had to know. Just then, the shadows moved. They twisted and morphed, forming shapes that danced around me. I stumbled back, practically throwing the stone away. It hit the rocky ground with a loud crack that reverberated against the cave walls, drowning out the laughter that suddenly erupted all around. "Wait! Stop!" I cried out, but my words were lost in the cacophony of noise that exploded from every direction. The shadows merged into a swirling mass, coalescing into a figure, a silhouette with empty eyes that locked onto mine. In that instant, I understood I wasn't just seeing a vision. This was something real, something born from the depths of the cave itself. Panic shot through me, and I turned to run, but the shadows clawed at my feet like angry spirits drawn to the living. "Help!" I screamed. My own voice echoed back at me, a cruel mockery. The figure lurched closer, its shape defining itself against the light from my flashlight. I was frozen where I stood. I realized I was trapped between the horror of the figure and the reality of the cave. But just as my resolve began to falter, a new thought sparked through my mind. The stone. It was the key. And in that flash of clarity, I lunged for it, desperate to reclaim the power it had once offered. I could feel the darkness closing in, but with every heartbeat, I grew determined. I had to figure this out, and fast. That's when I saw it. The stone began to glow even brighter, illuminating my path just before the shadows advanced again. I held it high, willing it to reveal whatever truth I had been blind to. Dread pooled in my stomach, and I realized facing this shadow was my only way out. The moment hung in the air, pregnant with possibilities that lay ahead. I brought the stone closer, its glow bathing the cave in light, and to my surprise, the shadows recoiled slightly. The figure hesitated, as if caught between worlds, its empty eyes narrowing. My heart raced, and for a moment, I felt a strange connection with this shadow, a sense that it wanted something from me. "Please, just let me go!" I yelled out, but the words felt feeble as they dissolved into the cavern's vastness. Then a voice, deeper and raspier than before, echoed from the figure, slicing through my panic. "You must understand." I felt an unsettling urge to lower the stone, but I held my ground. "Understand what? What do you want from me?" The shadows flickered around me, a vortex of hostility and sorrow. The glowing stone pulsed, and suddenly, Images flooded my mind. I saw glimpses of people who had been here before. Faces consumed by shadows, their expressions frozen in fear. My vision sharpened, revealing that they were trapped in a cycle, doomed to wander the cave eternally. Each one of them had reached for the stone, just like I had. "Stop! Please!" I cried out again, but the voices of the shadows grew louder, drowning out my pleas. They were desperate, their muffled warnings clawing at me, echoing both past and present. I could barely hear my own thoughts. The moment I thought I understood, the shadows lunged forward, swirling around me with a force that knocked me to the ground. The stone slipped from my grasp and tumbled into the darkness. "No! Come back!" I reached for the stone, but the shadows twisted around my wrists, holding me in place. My panic surged. I didn't just want to escape. I needed to reclaim that light, whatever it meant. With every ounce of strength, I pulled against the shadows, wrestling free of their grip. The figure loomed closer. Its voice resonated in my bones. "This is your choice, Sara. Embrace the truth or succumb to the darkness." With a final push, I broke free, scrambling toward the last known location of the stone. I looked around wildly, trying to spot any flicker of light against the pitch-black stone. I felt time twisting, seconds stretching into eternities as I searched. That's when I noticed it. The crevice shimmered faintly again, like a beacon. I darted toward it, practically throwing myself into the narrow gap. There it lay, the stone flickering weakly, desperate and hungry. As I grabbed it, the coldness of the shadows receded, and warmth surged back into my limbs. I felt empowered this time, as if the stone and my resolve were locking together in purpose. I stood tall, still clutching the stone, and faced the looming figure with renewed determination. "I won't let you take me!" I shouted. In that moment, the figure stopped. Its empty eyes reflected the stone's glow back at me, and it seemed almost to be assessing my strength. But before I could process what that meant, the ground beneath me began to tremble. The cave rumbled and echoed, warning of an impending eruption of sound and life. The shadows shrieked, and I knew I had to move fast. I stumbled back, still holding the stone tightly. I felt another change in the air. Something was shifting, and I needed to act quickly before whatever was underground broke free. I took a step back, ready to run, only to find a new twist in our confrontation. The shadows, now more agitated than ever, began to swirl again, shifting toward an opening behind me. I had to make a decision. Follow them, or risk getting trapped in the cave forever. My heart thundered as I stared into the swirling dark, wondering what lay beyond. I took a breath, forcing myself to focus, and stepped forward, sensing adventure, albeit with just a hint of fear. But deep down, I knew something awaited me that could either unlock my freedom or plunge me into an even deeper abyss. The shadows danced around me, urging me toward the opening. I could feel the stone pulsing in my hand, as if sensing my hesitation. The echoes of past explorers whispered through the cave, their words distorting into a mournful wail. I took a deep breath and stepped into the swirling dark. The shadows clung to my skin, cool and clingy, but I pressed on, the light from the stone pushing back against the darkness. As I moved forward, the air grew heavy with anticipation, and I wondered what lay ahead. Just beyond the threshold, my foot caught on something hard. I stumbled, barely regaining my balance. To my shock, I realized I had tripped over an ancient stone tablet. It was engraved with strange symbols, similar to those I had seen in my visions. With trembling hands, I brushed away the dust. The symbols seemed to shift under my touch, swirling into new shapes. I recognized one, an image of a person reaching for a bright light. I couldn't shake the feeling that this was a warning or perhaps a clue. My heart raced. What was the connection between this tablet and the shadows? No time for questions, I muttered to myself. I had to keep moving. I turned around to see the figure standing at the cave's entrance. It was no longer just a shadow. It was morphing, the outlines solidifying, revealing a tortured face. Its mouth opened. My breath caught in my throat. "Turn back!" it howled, and with that, the cave echoed with a deafening roar. The sound surged through the air and shook the walls, making me fall backward onto the tablet. I gasped, Not just from the impact, but from the realization. The very cave was angry. Panic rose again. I scrambled to my feet, narrowly avoiding the swirling shadows that sought to pull me back. The tablet pulsed with energy under my palms, and the stone in my grasp brightened in response. I remembered the faces trapped in the shadows. Was I destined to join them? Would I become just another echo in this cave? The pulling sensation intensified, dragging me toward the figure. I had to act. I pointed the stone at the figure as if it were a weapon. "Leave me alone!" I shouted, the words laced with both fear and defiance. To my astonishment, the light from the stone exploded in a radiant burst, momentarily illuminating the dark chamber. For a heartbeat, I saw images flickering on the tablet, showing paths leading away from the cave, shimmering doors that promised escape. Then the shadows wailed, and the illumination faded. I felt the pull weaken, but not disappear. I couldn't just stand there. I needed to make a choice before the figure grew stronger again. With a newfound sense of urgency, I turned back to the opening I had just come through, the shadows still swirling dangerously. I took a step back, considering the path ahead versus the swirling void behind me. But before I could decide, a loud crack echoed around me, causing dust and small stones to rain down from above. The cave was caving in. I needed to move. That's when I saw it. A faint glimmer at the end of the tunnel, a light brighter than the stone in my hand. It beckoned me. Would this be my way out? Or was it another trap? I had no choice. I took a deep breath, embraced the light, and ran toward it, feeling the shadows clawing at my heels. As I sprinted, a chilling thought sliced through my mind. What if this light led me deeper into the darkness I had tried so hard to escape? I raced toward the glimmer, heart pounding as the darkness fought to hold me back. Each step felt tremulous, weighted by fear. The shadows now seemed to twist and moan, a chorus of anguish that made my skin crawl. I could almost hear their whispers urging me to turn around, to end this mad sprint. But the light beckoned harder, glowing like a beacon of hope, or perhaps a final illusion. As I reached the end of the tunnel, I stumbled into an expansive chamber. The air was different here, fresher, tinged with something sweet and earthy. I squinted against the brightness, feeling the warmth wash over me, chasing away the clinging chill left by the shadows. In the center of the chamber stood a large crystal, towering and radiant. It shimmered with every color imaginable, casting dancing lights against the walls. I could feel the energy pulsing from it, a stark contrast to the heavy dread of the cave. My fear ebbed slightly, replaced by a flicker of curiosity. Cautiously, I approached the crystal. As I drew nearer, the warm light enveloped me, and I could hear a low hum resonating in my bones. The stone in my hand vibrated in tandem, almost as if it recognized its counterpart. I reached out, fingers brushing the surface of the crystal, and suddenly a vision flashed before my eyes, whirling images of the tablet, the shadow figure, and those trapped faces. I gasped, pulling my hand back. "What are you?" I whispered. The hum grew more pronounced, like a response to my question. I took a step back, trying to process what I just experienced. The faces I had seen. They weren't just echoes. They were connected to this place, possibly guardians, warning me of something brewing deep in the shadows of the cave. My heart sank as I considered the implications. Then, a crack echoed from the entrance I had just fled. My instincts screamed at me to run, but I was frozen in place, caught between the promise of light and the threat looming behind me. I turned, and there it was again, the shadow figure emerging into the chamber. Its face twisted, features contorted in a fury I had never seen before. "Fool!" it screamed, voice reverberating off the walls. "You cannot escape your destiny!" Panic surged anew. I had to think fast. The crystal pulsated with energy, and instinctively I knew I had to harness it. "What do I need to do?" I shouted, desperation creeping into my voice. A sudden jolt of energy coursed through me. Without thinking, I raised the stone, a reckless gamble. The figure lunged forward, a dark mass that threatened to consume everything. Just before it reached me, the light flared, flooding the chamber and illuminating the walls. And then, everything went dark. I stumbled through the void, the darkness wrapping around me like a heavy blanket. There was no sound, no light. Just a suffocating silence that pressed against my ears. I tried to breathe, but it felt like my lungs were full of lead, frozen in horror. Then, with a rush, the light returned. I gasped as I found myself back in the chamber, the crystal still glowing, but now it flickered like a dying star. The shadow figure was gone, leaving a lingering sense of dread in its wake. But something was different. The walls pulsed with a distorted hue, and a low rumble echoed beneath my feet, a reminder that this place wasn't as safe as it seemed. I looked around, panic restarting in my chest as I searched for the exit. "What just happened?" I muttered under my breath. My heart raced and sweat pooled at the back of my neck. Had I actually escaped? Or was I still trapped in some twisted game of fate? Distracted by my own thoughts, I stumbled toward the crystal again, drawn to it despite my fear. I needed answers. As I reached out to touch it again, I caught my own reflection in the facets of the stone, a reflection that made my stomach drop. My face appeared as it did, but there was a flicker of something else, something dark hovering just behind me. I spun around, expecting to see the shadow figure creeping closer, but there was nothing. Only shadows, only whispers. I shook my head, forcing myself to concentrate. I needed to calm down. I needed to figure out what this place meant before it was too late. As if reading my mind, the crystal pulsed more brightly, sending arc lines of light skirting across the chamber. I could feel its energy resonate deeper now, intertwining with the stone I held. "What do I need to do?" I called again, desperation creeping back into my voice. I felt like a puppet, guided by strings held in hands I could not see. Suddenly, a new sound filled the chamber. A low, guttural growl erupted from the shadows, making me freeze in my tracks. It was there, lurking just at the edge of the light, something more tangible than my fears. I could barely make out a shape moving, creeping closer through the darkness, and it felt charged with an ominous intent. I raised the stone, feeling the energy intensify, but doubt creeped in. Would it help or hurt me? I had no time to decide. The growl grew louder, echoing ominously against the chamber walls, and I could see the edges of the creature now, jagged and dark, its form shifting with every heartbeat. That's when I saw it. Eyes, glowing with an unsettling light, fixing on mine, unblinkingly. I was trapped. The walls felt closer, the ground beneath me trembled, and I knew I had to act. Whatever this creature was, it wouldn't wait. I took a deep breath and prepared myself. If I was going to face this thing, I had to trust the power of the crystal. I closed my eyes, channeling everything I had into that connection. I centered my thoughts, feeling the ground shake beneath me, but I couldn't give in to fear. The presence before me surged forward, and I braced myself, the uncertainty coiling tight in my stomach. As the darkness approached, I could only hope the light would be enough. I felt the air shift as the creature lunged. In that moment, the room seemed to split apart, my senses dulled by a mixture of terror and anticipation. I didn't know what would happen next, but I could feel the energy from the crystal enveloping me, drawing deeper into its luminescence. Then, everything exploded into chaos. The ground shook violently, and the walls of the chamber cracked, sending small stones tumbling to my feet. The advanced shadows began to blend and twist, shifting into a form I could no longer recognize. A scream caught in my throat as the monster rushed at me, its glowing eyes filled with malevolence. In a frantic heartbeat, I swung the crystal toward the creature, desperation fueling my movements. "Get back!" I shouted, though I wasn't entirely sure who I was trying to warn, myself or the beast. I was terrified. The light from the crystal shot forth, a beam cutting through the encroaching darkness. It struck the creature square in its eyes, and for a moment, it hesitated. The growl that had filled the chamber turned into a sound more akin to a high-pitched wail, reverberating off the cracked walls. Its form flickered, wavering like a mirage, and with that, something shifted in me. I felt something within the crystal stir, a memory, a connection I hadn't sensed before. I saw flashes, a dark forest, a crowded cavern, chilling echoes of laughter. I couldn't place them. My thoughts raced, weaving together fragments of my life. The crystal was not merely a tool, it was part of me, a bridge to something larger. The creature shrieked, its form shimmering as if debating. I couldn't hesitate. I pushed more energy into the crystal, harnessing every ounce of strength I had. The light pulsed brighter, illuminating the chamber in stark relief and pushing back the shadows. The creature recoiled, its form twitching, but it was far from defeated. With sheer will, I took a step forward. "I'm not afraid of you," I declared, feeling a flicker of courage beneath my fear. It wasn't just a creature, it was a reflection of all the darkness I had ever faced. But then, a shudder rippled through the ground, a sudden jolt that threw me off balance. I stumbled, the crystal almost slipping from my grip. The moment I lost my focus, the creature lunged again, swiping a shadowy claw toward me. I barely managed to raise the crystal in time. The impact sent a shockwave through me, reverberating up my arm as light and darkness clashed. The creature shrieked in agony, darkness swirling like a storm, and I realized I wouldn't be able to hold it back for long. Just as my vision blurred, I caught a glimpse of something behind the creature. A portal, forming in the fabric of the chamber, swirling with chaotic energy. It shimmered like a distorted mirror, beckoning with a pull I couldn't resist. In that instant, everything clicked into place. If I didn't confront this being, it would consume me. But if I faced it, I might also find a way out. As I gripped the crystal tighter, a wild thought crossed my mind. What if the crystal could do more than just fend off the creature? What if it could help me escape this nightmare? With my heart pounding, I took a step forward, soul ignited by determination. I had to find out what lay on the other side. But as I moved toward the portal, the creature extended its claws, its final attempt to pull me back into the dark. I took a breath and leaped. The moment I crossed the threshold, I felt the world shift beneath me, as if I had fallen into the depths of a dream. Cold air whipped past my skin, and the sensation of weightlessness engulfed me. I tumbled through a kaleidoscope of colors that morphed around me in a blur, each hue brighter and more surreal than the last. Then, all at once, gravity returned, and I landed hard on the cold, damp ground. I gasped, feeling the familiar crunch of leaves beneath my back as I lay sprawled in a forest clearing. The cave was gone. Above me, the sky was a deep indigo, flecked with stars that twinkled like jewels in the night. I blinked and pushed myself into a sitting position. Panic flooded through me as I realized how quiet everything was. I was alone. As I steadied my breath, memories surged back. Images of the creature, the crystal, and the shadow's laughter. My heart pounded in rhythm with a strange sense of loss. Had I truly escaped? Or was this another trap? I reached to my pocket, half expecting the stone to be there. But it was empty, just as it had been when I found the crystal in the cave. A chill ran down my spine. Yes, I had escaped the cave. But at what cost? The moonlight revealed faint symbols etched into the nearby tree, and I trembled. Somehow, the echoes of the cave had followed me. I picked myself up and began to walk, unsure of where I was heading but needing to move, needing to escape. The forest felt dense and stretching into infinity, its trees casting long shadows in the moonlight. The tranquility around me felt deceptive, and as I walked, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still watching, waiting just out of sight. A rustling in the underbrush made me stop. I turned to look, my heart racing. Just a deer, I told myself as it burst through the shadows, its wide eyes reflecting the moonlight. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. For a moment, I thought perhaps I could return to a sense of normalcy, but the stillness was fraught with unease. I had never felt so utterly vulnerable. Each sound seemed amplified, the whispering wind, the distant hoot of an owl. In the distance, I swore I heard a voice drift through the trees, echoing my name. Sara. I shook my head, trying to convince myself it was imagination. I quickened my pace. The questions gnawed at me. What was it that pursued me? Was it a remnant of the cave, or something more sinister? I had escaped the cave, yet I could feel its weight still hanging in the air around me, and I wasn't sure if I'd ever be free. I soon came across a dirt road, illuminated by moonlight. Relief flooded through me as I spotted a car approaching. I frantically waved my arms, and it screeched to a halt. A man in a flannel shirt rolled down the window, eyeing me warily. "Are you okay?" he asked, concern etched on his face. A million thoughts raced through my mind, but I only nodded. I got lost in the woods, I managed to say, clutching my arms around myself. He gestured for me to get in, and as I did, I caught a glimpse of something on my arm, a faint line, like a shadow tracing my skin. I glanced out the window as we drove away, and the trees faded into the distance behind us, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was still tethered to that darkness. Still part of the whispers that echoed in the night. I moved to a different city after that. Sometimes, late at night, I think I hear the murmurs again, the call of the cave that once consumed me. Sometimes I wonder if I left something behind, if those shadows have found other souls to haunt. But for the most part, I try not to dwell on it, gripping the newness of the ordinary too tightly. I can't say I'll ever forget what happened in those depths, nor can I say I'm completely free. Not yet.